Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We'll just give people a couple of minutes to join. If you're new to the Big Markup platform, you can see there's a chat function on the right-hand side where you can say hello so that we know you're there. There's a Q&A, which you can put questions to our guests, which I'll be announcing shortly. We'll run a poll as well. But hopefully people are joining with just a minute before start time. So we'll give it another minute and then introduce guests and what have you. And I'm going to just literally put something in the chat now to see if it's working. Oh, there's a good afternoon from Lucy, so thanks. That's always a good sign. Hi, Lucy. Hi, everyone. We'll just give people another minute or so, and then we can start. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Lucy. Hi, everyone. So welcome to today's lunchtime webinar, part of the Exeter Science Park webinar series. Your Wednesday, every other Wednesday, is Tech Southwest and the Digital Skills Partnership by Devon and Somerset. I'm Dan Pritchard, one of the hosts. Charlotte is our other host, but she's got a day off today, so she won't be joining us, but that's us. And the idea of these sessions are really sort of short and sharp while you're enjoying your lunch or getting hungry, to just dive into a different aspect of the tech scene, really. And so we've got a really good panel today that I'll be introducing shortly. This discussion, so do drop things into the chat, thoughts, ideas, useful links, ask questions in the chat or the Q&A function, take the poll, we can reflect on that. The session's recorded and put up later by Exeter Science Park. And we're always looking for ideas for topics and guests to keep them coming. So, so today's three wonderful guests. We've got Paul Coles, English Regions Director, BT Group, Toby Parkins, Co-founder and Director of Head Forwards, and Catherine White, Innovation Manager, Environmental Futures and the Big Data Impact Lab. So welcome to you all. Everyone all right? Tech working?
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good. And of course, the other key part of what Paul, Toby, and Catherine do, they're also immersed in the tech scene more broadly. So they, mentioning just some of the organisations that they are part of and supporting. Paul was on the steering group of Tech Southwest and various other things. Toby is the chair of Tech Southwest, very instrumental in setting up the Software Cornwall group, and Catherine, one of the key kind of players in Tech Exeter and the Exist network locally as well. So we've kind of talking about ecosystems and tech, and there's all these wonderful groups doing different things. And part of the conversation today is really sort of to understand a bit more about that and what we should all be working towards, I suppose, in these difficult times. So today's topic really is sort of this. We're talking about roadmap to recovery. The government are talking about roadmap to recovery. The role of the tech sector, specifically in the Southwest. Some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, what we should be focusing on. We saw it yesterday. Boris Johnson, I won't try and repeat anything of what he said or the style in which he said it, but build. We're going to spend infrastructure, roads, broadband, etc. Some people might be very excited about that. Some people might be, kind of skeptical. We won't get into the politics, but there is clearly a recovery that is required, whether it's an individual company, there's tough times, and as a country overall. So I thought we'd just start very quickly in terms of explaining a bit about the tech sector and some of the organisations within it. Toby, as chair of Tech Southwest, do you want to say a little bit first of all, just sort of what is Tech Southwest? What does it do?
So Tech Southwest is, in effect, it's a sort of collection of lots of local clusters. So we've got obviously Tech Exeter, then Digital Plymouth, Software Cornwall, Digital North Devon, and then obviously further north, obviously Tech Spark and Tech Swindon, Gloucester are coming on board soon, Bournemouth, and across the whole region, we've seen the growth of clusters of businesses coming together to form these sort of local clusters. And Tech Southwest really just helps join all of those together so that we can actually articulate a larger voice, and we can tell the story of what's going on across the region. Collectively, the region is actually quite significant if you compare it to other parts of the UK, and Tech Southwest really is there to help all those clusters work together so that collectively we can get listened to more by government and appear on a national basis to be as significant as we are collectively all together.
And on the screen, people you'll be able to see they just some of the local tech clusters, and all of these sit on the steering group of Tech Southwest. So actually, the idea is we by joining up, we have a stronger voice, and we can reach out more in terms of other organisations and government and others as part of that. Catherine, so you're very involved in Tech Exeter amongst other things. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because as an example of one of the local clusters sort of working actively on the ground, it'd be good to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I sort of came on as one of the leaders of Tech Exeter last January, I think it was, joining Chris Sum, who's done a fantastic job, and Jacob Tomlinson. So Tech Exeter is a community interest company. We've got kind of 3 key focus areas, which is building the community and putting on community events. We have meetups. The Tech Exeter ones are every other month, and the months in between are Digital Exeter, which is our sister community. So while Tech Exeter's for the more techie folks, the developers, etc., Digital Exeter is for those who might be product managers or work with the more techie things, or work with technology but aren't quite so geeky themselves. Then we have our big annual conference. So it's coming up. Tickets have just gone on sale for this year's conference, which will be September 9th and 10th. First time doing a 2-day conference, first time doing a virtual conference. So tickets are cheaper this year. We'll have a Tech Exeter Day on the 9th, Digital Exeter Day on the 10th. We're on the theme of vision because it's 2020, and we've got a really exciting and very varied lineup of speakers. And that conference really focuses on being inclusive and about community and about giving people of all sort of backgrounds and all abilities a chance to sort of put forward to speak. So we often prioritize people who haven't spoken before and make sure we have a good rounded mix of different kind of levels of difficulty and different broad topics. And then our final sort of focus areas is diversity and inclusion, which is fundamental to the future of sort of tech in the region, etc., is growing that talent pool by making sure it is open to everybody. So we do quite a lot of work going out and presenting at Pride events and getting involved. We do some support for PRISM, which is Pride in STEM, which is a fantastic community who have an event coming up very soon. So please check that out. I think Dan's going to
Catherine's really good at this, just plugging events left, right, and centre. It's brilliant.
Events.
Yeah, that's good.
But that's an amazing group bringing together LGBTQ plus people across STEM and doing fantastic talks. Is that enough? Have I run out of?
Well, no, that's the point I was going to say to that, and it's brilliant. And taking people back to that last slide, if you think of all these local clusters, all these things are happening. So then my screen just crashed there. But if you take it back to that last slide, and then I'm just going to pause my screen. There we go. If you take that last slide, there are clusters, there are groups everywhere across the region, developing these things, engaging these things, having to switch to virtual models, digital models, all this, and actually some of that means, we can reach out to people, and I guess it's one of the things Tech Southwest tries to do in terms of joining the dots, because things happening in Tech Exeter, before, a lot of the challenges with even starting our Tech Southwest in the early days, well, are people going to drive? Are we too long as a region? Is Devon going to talk to Cornwall? Is Plymouth going to talk to Exeter? Why does Bristol need to look west to Cornwall? All that, I guess, has been blown out of the water. And I think, turning to you, Paul, your perspective in terms of rooted in the region, but with a national role, BT, have you seen that change over the last few years, I suppose, and is that a good thing?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think, if I look at the work that the tech clusters are doing, it's absolutely amazing. And, 3 or 4 years ago, if we looked at the Tech Nation report, we wouldn't have seen anywhere near as many tech clusters as we now have. And I think that sends an important message to government, which I know through Tech Southwest, we're looking to amplify just, the type of investments they should make down in Southwest. I get shot in certain quarters, but I'm not convinced road and rail infrastructure investments are what we need. Certainly when we've interviewed, tech companies in the Southwest, prior to COVID, the number one challenge was skills and access to skills. Now I think number one is survival. These are difficult times, but the skills piece is still there. And I do think if we can help solve some of the talent challenges, then the Southwest is absolutely superbly placed to thrive. I reflect that my own CEO was running a company of 106,000 people across 100 countries out of Devon for a few weeks because that's where he was when lockdown happened. And we could do that. I reflect that the University of Bath had spent years saying we cannot do online courses. COVID landed and they did it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So COVID has engendered massive change, and it will continue to engender massive change. But I think the Southwest is significantly well placed to lead the country, frankly, or if not be one of the leaders in this country around technology. New, high value, highly productive jobs.
Brilliant. Well, I think optimism is good, isn't it? And there's sort of difficult times. There's messages coming out from the economy and the data and what have you. But it is certainly an opportunity. So I'm going to press start polling. Okay. So people with us today, just simply asking what should tech support organizations prioritize. There's quite a few in there. I think it allows you to press as many as you want, but perhaps limit it to your top 3. Otherwise, you might say yes to everything, which will get us nowhere, and we'll feel we need to do everything. But it'd be useful just to pick out a couple of ones that you think, these are priorities, perhaps in 2020. So that's go to the poll section to do that. What I'm going to do now is attempt to share my screen again. I think we've sort of. It's amazing. In 5 minutes, we've dived into kind of Tech Exeter, on the ground, activity, involvement, diversity, conferences, scaling right up to the Southwest. Actually, we have an opportunity here as part of this recovery to be a leader, and the tech sector in terms of leading other sectors, but also the Southwest, and being proud of where we are, what we're doing, and where we're heading. I suppose one of the big challenges, okay, how do you turn that into tangible outcomes? I mean, Toby, that's one of the things that I know you think a lot into your roles at Tech Southwest and Chamber of Commerce and engaging with MPs. How do we do it?
So I think we need to be clear about where our strengths are and where the opportunities are and what we need to change or what we need government to do in order to help support that. I think there's the geographical challenge that everyone has in the Southwest is an interesting one. We are very spread out, and that's always been a challenge. It's one of the reasons why we don't necessarily get the quite the level of road investment and infrastructure investment and rail investment that other more dense areas get. But it's historically always been seen as a real challenge, and I think one of the things that COVID has really shown and demonstrated is that actually geographical location is far less important than it was 4 months ago. In terms of a factor that influences whether or not somebody's going to locate in a certain place, where they're going to source their staff from, where they're going to work from, where they're going to source suppliers from. I think the London bubble, where obviously there's a huge concentration of businesses, may actually start to be thinking, well, actually, it's probably less important for us to all be in, within the sort of within Shoreditch or wherever's the current trendiest place to be in London. And that presents huge opportunities for everyone in the Southwest, because all of a sudden, one of the biggest challenges that we used to have 4 months ago and before that now is far less of it has less significance, I think. And every business that's been able to grow and succeed during the pre-COVID times of with challenging geographical transport infrastructure all of a sudden you take that challenge away, and those businesses should be able to really thrive probably a lot better than businesses in other areas. So in London, for example, the fact that everybody's concentrated together is probably more of a disadvantage now, because of course more and more people are realizing they don't want to get on a tube next to somebody coughing or picking up germs and things. And so actually, what was the greatest benefit for businesses being in London is now actually become that they're getting a disadvantage. And then actually our greatest disadvantage is actually now no longer, or is less of a disadvantage, and therefore we've got a really positive future in the Southwest, I think.
And is this perhaps turning to Catherine first of all, is this about looking at companies we already have and says, okay, how do we get them to raise their game or be ambitious, or think how they pivot or tap new markets? Or is this because the Southwest are traditionally lots of smaller companies and medium-sized, not many huge corporates down here? Or is this about sort of shouting to the wider rest of the world, saying this is the place to come, and or is it both?
I think so. My background and the reason I came down to the Southwest was researching innovation ecosystems, and spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, and spent some time traveling around the world looking at how to build successful innovation ecosystems. And so that has always been my core interest down here. And I think, everybody tries to sort of copy the Silicon Valleys and try and aim that way. I think for me, I've always pushed for recognizing the specific values of a region and the specific attributes that we've got. So the Environmental Futures and Big Data Impact Lab was set up as part of a whole strategy that the university and many others are involved with around environmental intelligence. So we have like the highest proportion of sort of climate-based papers being put out by academics in this region. We have the Met Office headquartered here. We may not have many big companies, but we have some really significant ones looking at that sector. We've got a huge amount of the marine sector. We've got a huge amount of agriculture. These are really key things, and there is such an important focus on low carbon and the climate going forward. Yeah. I also very strongly agree with Toby and his points about, while I was traveling the world, I was looking at this about nomads was a term that was cropping up, no with a KNOW, which is people who realize that if they work digitally, they can work anywhere because it's all through the cloud. And as Toby said, people are now realizing that more and more. We've all discovered things that we had been reticent to sort of do online that we've had to, and realize, that's actually very easy and in some ways can be better and more efficient. And so that opens that up even more. And at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time talking about the fact that people come down to the Southwest to retire or to have a young family and be close to the sea and go surfing. But that doesn't need to be a clash with coming down here for business. That can be the benefit that you can, if you can choose anywhere in the world to start your business, why not do it in a place that's wonderful to live? And so I think to me, that's what we should be. We should be building our reputation as a place where it is good to live and good to have a business. And we should be trying to draw new businesses in, keep talent from running off to the big cities, and, build up this sort of, I always think having a specialism is a good way to brand yourself. So for me, that environmental intelligence side is a good kind of core to build our reputation. And
that does work across a very broad stretch of the Southwest. And Southwest, we cover up to Gloucestershire and Wiltshire and Bristol and Bath as well. And even there, you've got some real synergies around the different specialisms across the whole region. Just reflecting on the poll before I turn to Paul, it's really interesting. Sort of what should tech support organisations prioritise? So kind of mixed, but digital skills is at the top. A third of people putting that as a key thing. Push for government funding, support a low carbon recovery. Number 3, but also gather data to understand and learn. So a real mix. And I think that's one of the challenges for the sort of cluster organisations that often run voluntarily and what have you, is being this kind of voice, lobbying, but also the practical kind of support and guidance and digital skills. I guess from your side, Paul, in terms of that digital skills piece, that kind of echoes what you're saying about road to rail, question mark. Actually, it's about we can work anywhere if we've got the right infrastructure and the right skills to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think digital skills for me is the key. I mean, with my day job hat on, we've launched a program to try and reach 10 million people with, enhancing their digital skills so they can thrive in this increasingly digital world. But I think, reflecting on a call that the Heart of the Southwest Digital Skills Partnership put together yesterday with the Digital Boost team, I'm fascinated by the work that we could potentially do with the Digital Boost team, because I think there's a real opportunity for the tech clusters to reach out and help businesses that don't understand digital to engage with digital and therefore thrive. Because I'm worried, of course, I'm worried about the survival of digital businesses through COVID, but I'm even more worried about non-digital businesses not thriving because they haven't engaged with new tech. So I think there's a real strong opportunity for those people that are involved in technology, and specifically the clusters, to reach out through a program such as Digital Boost and help non-digital businesses survive and thrive. So it is the key for me, and I think it should form our major ask into government. And I think there's a piece of work to be done with the education sector as well to make sure that we're getting the right talent flowing through.
Yeah, and I think, I suppose one of the things is, we get the messages coming out from central government talking about low carbon recovery and what have you. We will have councils, we'll have our MPs, and it's a challenge, isn't it? In terms of them knowing about us. Tech can be a hidden sector at times. Toby, you've made this point before. In terms of we're not as visible as some of the more traditional, as tourism, as fishing, as farming. Do we need to do more around that? Toby,
I think. Sorry, Toby. No, I think you're absolutely right. But if we all found 10 minutes this afternoon to total up the meetings that we've not travelled to since COVID, and then go online and use a carbon calculator, we will have found that we've probably taken individually tens of thousands of CO2 out of the atmosphere just through those individual actions. So, the very fact of what we're doing on this call today is contributing. More to be done. Sorry, Toby.
No, that's right. It's one of the things that occurred to me a couple of years ago, really, is you drive around, you see these huge, great warehouses, and a friend of mine built that one near the airport. Is it the Lidl distribution centre? I think it's about 1 million square feet. I think he said it was, and and it's an absolutely huge building. You can't miss it. And as you got the M5, you've got the Morrison's distribution hub, and these are huge, great buildings. And then when you actually look at how many people actually work inside them, and what's the sort of average salary, and what's the actual economic impact of except that distribution hubs need to exist, but in terms of the physical presence of a very large building, it does impress people, and it does make people talk. And imagine if you had 1 million square feet filled full of tech companies. The economic impact and the impact of relatively high paid jobs for a lot of people, and the economic impact and the social impact therefore on Exeter or wherever it was placed would be huge. And unfortunately, we at work we average something like about 5.5 square meters, sort of gross internal space, net internal space, per person, and that was pre-COVID. Obviously, it probably needs to expand.
Let's not get into the math. Let's not get into the math.
But the principle is that a very small building can house some incredible technology and some very, very talented people. And that's just not recognised, and it's not recognised by the public. And therefore, I find that when I go into schools, parents sort of question why on earth would their children want to try and get a job in tech, because there isn't any jobs. And yet in Cornwall, the tech industry is 4 times larger than the fishing industry. But everyone is shocked when they hear that, or surprised rather when they hear that. And the tech sector in the Southwest, I've said before, is larger than the entire UK, including Scotland and Northern Irish fishing industry.
Yeah,
it's but
they've got more boats.
Yeah, boats are pretty. There's lots
Yeah.
of postcards of them, and and it's a traditional industry and all that sort of thing. Whereas, actually, I think it's time that we do need to articulate the strength of the tech industry more widely.
And I think that's really interesting, because that then that's a role for Tech Southwest, it's a role for Tech Exeter, and all the other local clusters, and people on this call who will be working in and running tech organisations. We should have a role to kind of shout about and celebrate and talk to young people within the region and beyond the region. But also brings it back to this webinar series, Exeter Science Park. This is part of their, okay, we need to flip some of this. We are a building. There's lots going on there, but we need a digital first kind of approach. So their engagement program and reaching out, and again, I suppose that is another opportunity, because we can start breaking down some of those boundaries, whether it's Falmouth Launchpad and that brand, and Exeter Science Park, Bristol Science Park, Bristol Tech Festival, all those kind of things that actually we can go way beyond the region with our brand and with our specialisms, and that obviously happens with the Met Office and others. But as a collective, we probably, when Tech Southwest founded, the first thing everyone said was, no, don't go. This is not about building a brand to shout beyond the region. This is just joining the dots within the region. We've made a lot of progress on that, but it's this low carbon recovery. That kind of, here we go. Pushing beyond the region is the next step. We've got a final few minutes left. I think a reflection on that from you, Catherine, and then from Paul into the where do we go next would be great, and then we'll run out of time. Catherine.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the promoting beyond the region. In terms of, given that everyone's highlighted that skills and talent is still one of the key areas that we should focus on. There are two ways when we've got a shortage of talent in the region. Well, there's a few here. One is actually letting the talent in the region know that there's something for them here. I remember meeting a young woman who was doing a job with a company in Plymouth. And she had no idea. She'd been looking at moving away. She hadn't even thought about doing tech, but it was things like the apprentice scheme that the college do that got her to realise that was an opportunity here. So a lot of it is young people not actually seeing the opportunities, as we've said. There's the diversity piece about bringing more different types of people in. So I think education programs for bringing in, I'm very passionate about the idea of stopping losing new mothers from the workplace, where a woman will have a child and then maybe will try to return to the workplace, but it won't have the flexibility for family requirements. And that's true of other sort of single parents or other parent families, but predominantly women. And so we lose lots of fantastic women from the workforce, but actually if they retrain into digital skills, those are very flexible jobs that are much more suited to being flexible around childcare. So I think retraining programs for adults is really important. And then the other way to get talent in, because, we can focus on the young people, fix that's important, but they'll take 20 years to get into the workplace. The other is to bring talent in from outside and make people want to come down here. And that is down to sort of accessibility of jobs, knowing that if someone moves, then their partner can get a job also. So plan B jobs, all of that sort of thing. So it's this cycle of building up the reputation enough that there are then companies here that have the jobs to offer, and that we're focusing on bringing skills not only to young people, but to people shifting industries and to talent from outside.
Brilliant. Thanks, Catherine. Apologies for my audio. I'm a bit cracking there. I've turned off my mic and talked to the computer. So, Paul, final thoughts for you, really, into the role of the tech sector and taking us forward and this road to recovery and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's about, and Catherine's talked about it, is skills. So there's Tech Southwest has necessarily, as you say, been joining up the dots, understanding where we are, what we've got in terms of assets, but it's now about how we bring a single voice together and start shouting back into government and even within the region about the types of things that the tech sector needs to thrive. Because the reality is, if you want clean growth, if you want higher productivity jobs, then the tech sector is going to be absolutely critical to that. So I'm not underestimating the challenge of that, Dan, because sometimes you've got to say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times. But that is the role I'm hoping Tech Southwest will play. And I'm hoping the tech businesses on the call will also, in their own private lives or in, working with other businesses, just reflect that there is a vibrant tech community down here, and that we can do tech in the Southwest.
Absolutely, and I think just add that, we are the sum of our parts, aren't we, in terms of individuals and companies, and the great journey that Tech Southwest has been on. It's been about discovery and finding amazing people doing amazing things in different ways, whether that's community programs, work placement programs, initiatives, conferences, events, digital focused events, learning support, all of that goes into the mix, and that is what actually ultimately shapes the brand and our story, as it were, talking as a marketing person, going forwards, that it allows you to kind of engage, with government, with key, partners and others, and it just builds up this picture of, I do want to work there. Look what's going on. The live, the work, the vibrancy. There is a whole kind of ecosystem there and things going on that adds to the whole mix. So look, it's a whistle stop. Thank you so much. I was keeping an eye out for questions, but people were being very polite, or they were eating their beans and toast at the same time. As listening to us. So Toby, Paul and Catherine, thanks so much for being part of today's Exoscience Park webinar. Just very briefly to people on the call, Charlotte is back. You'll be relieved to know, having starred 2 weeks ago with it, including a drum roll on the one 2 weeks ago as well. That was good. She happened to have a drum kit behind her, and she said, let's play the drums in a webinar. Which didn't work quite as well as we thought, because she had a headset, so the sound was like a little bit muted, but there we go. So Charlotte's back in a couple of weeks' time, and she's talking to Nicola Dillon, Microsoft Local and Regional Government Strategic Account Director, looking at automation and some examples in automation around COVID-19 responses and across the private sector. And Stuart Cochrane, Head of Operations for Pneumatic, talking about their knowledge partnership with the University of West of England and the Robotics Lab, and how it's transforming elements of their business in a good way. So thanks everyone. The recording is available for people to watch it again and again and again on YouTube at some point. I've gone really dark, so that's definitely an end to it all. But thanks so much, and have a good afternoon. Cheers all.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Thank you.